Hello, everybody. Thank you guys very much for joining us. This is Cody Askins with Secure Agent Mentor. This podcast, we're going to be doing some audio podcast. This one's going to be on Train for Success. We have a lot of agents with Secure Agent Mentor. We want to make sure that they feel like that they are training for success, that they are getting the very best training in the world. And so we want to come to you every week with some training tips, some training advice, some different training topics. I'm sitting here with Sylvester Lane. He's in charge of marketing and support for Secure Agent Mentor. Sylvester, welcome to the podcast, brother.
I'm glad to be here.
What we want to talk about today, well, before we get into that, before we talk about why we're here, what we're going to talk about, and how we're going to make you successful, because you know we're going to make you successful, don't you? Before we jump into that, why did we start this podcast, Train for Success? What was the purpose of that for insurance agents? Why did we do this?
Well, as you said earlier, we have tons of insurance agents spanning from New York to LA, all around the United States.
True.
And not all of our agents are able to meet when we have local meetings or conference call in, just because of time differences and delays. And one of the things that we like to focus on is training, support, and communication with our agents. Those are our three keys. And we saw this as an opportunity to increase all three of those, really. But mostly we want to train our agents. And if you only have 10 to 20 minutes, in the morning or in your car or riding on the train or on the bus to get to your office or to get to your next appointment, we want you to be able to put in your headphones and listen to a podcast. Not only laugh with us, joke with us, but get some training in some practical areas that we notice that a lot of our agents are struggling in.
Oh, yeah. Or that the average insurance agent needs. I mean, we always need to improve. And there's a lot of topics out there that we could cover. The first topic we're going to cover is called asking for the business, asking for the sale, asking for referrals, asking for the appointment. Whatever it is, it just needs to be called ask. I mean, truthfully, right?
That's true. And it's weird because
it sounds so elementary.
Right? You get the opportunity to talk to random people, whether it's at the grocery store or the restaurant. The person right next to you in a long line, you'll have a full conversation with them. And all of them eventually are going to pass away. Mm-hmm. Or all of them eventually will turn 65. And hopefully all of them might have some money in savings that they need to go somewhere with and put it into an investment vehicle. But we always have a problem asking for a simple sit down. You can joke around with them. You can laugh around with them. You can spend 10 minutes talking to somebody.
Let's address the psychology of that, because you bring up a great point. Why is that? Why is that so hard? Asking for something that you want, that most of the time they want, that they need, that you need. If we don't ask, we go broke. Why wouldn't we ask someone? What's the mental psychology behind not wanting to ask someone for something?
I think a lot of it boils down to you don't want to come off as an inconvenience to people.
Okay.
We're all used to those door-to-door salesmen. It used to be the way that things were sold.
Right.
But nowadays with the internet, how many times have you went to Best Buy, played with the new technology, and then went straight home to Amazon and bought it off of Amazon because you didn't want to deal with anybody?
That's true.
That's kind of the world we live in right now. And sometimes we feel like we're being pushy, and people don't like pushy. And we're like, this person likes me. Yeah. But if I asked...
But we've got to stop thinking that. This in any sales business, and I don't care if you're teaching second grade, you're in sales. You got to convince that second grader to shut up and listen. Everyone's in sales. Everyone needs to learn the simple sales technique of asking for what you want. The average agent, number one, we don't ask for what we want, and number two, we don't ask enough. Whether it's cold calling, door knocking, closing, if you would just ask, I know agents right now, even a part of our agency, Secure Agent Mentor, if they would just ask, or if they would ask more often, they would double their business immediately. It's not like they're not any good. They're great prospectors. They get in front of plenty of people. But if you're not, because we give them high quality leads, they love our lead programs. But if they're not asking, they're not going to receive. How many people have just done something, have bought something from you without you asking them to do so?
Very few.
Yeah. It happens. It's really rare that they're like, come up and, hey, I want to buy this from you.
Probably my mom would probably be the one that I could think about. But it brings us to our first thing we want you to learn how to ask about, and that's referrals.
Yeah.
Referrals are probably the easiest thing to ask for because you've already sold to the person.
Right.
They like you as a person. They're trusting you with their money. They're trusting you with their financial future, their family.
Most agents don't want to ask. They just don't want to ask for referrals. Why is it that we will go through that long, drooling process of asking for an appointment, finding someone to talk to, asking them for an appointment, getting in front of them, spending an hour or 2 hours closing them, getting them to buy the product or whatever we're selling, putting them in a better situation, building that relationship, all those things that it takes to sell someone something, and we can't ask someone for a referral. It's almost like we believe that if we sell something, we have to go through the entire sales process, and it has to be 100% cold. We don't want a warm prospect. We don't want to make it easy on ourselves. Sly, let's make it tough on ourselves.
Right. And with that, for you who don't know Cody's an exceptional insurance agent. He's been able to sell to rich and poor people. And if you hear about our Tales of an Insurance Agent, our first episode that we released on Tuesday, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. You'll hear a story about how I was able to sell somebody and Cody was able to sell somebody, and they were actually like probably one of the tightest budgets I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But because we were able to ask for their business, we were able to sell them. Now, Cody, what are some tips you would have for somebody that maybe is looking at how to attack their old clients, the people that they've already sold 6 months, a year ago?
That's actually a great question. Most people, that's another point that we forget. I mean, seriously, that's the thing that we forget about. I mean, if you think about it, who are the easiest people to sell? Who are the easiest people in the world to sell? Number one, it's the people you know, people that know you, and your clients. But we are so afraid to ask people we know. And then also, as we're talking about it, you can include referrals because they are super, super easy. I mean, if you think about people we know, people that know us, people that want to buy from us, clients, and then asking clients for referrals, those are things that we do not do. It all comes down to psychology of actually asking. That's it. You just have to ask. What would you say is outside of, if you think about asking for referrals, asking for appointments, or asking for sales, which do agents, some of them do none of the above as far as asking at all. Which of those three do you think are the toughest things? Which one of those is the toughest to ask for? Appointment, a sell, or referral?
I think it really just depends on your personality.
Okay.
Some people are really bullheaded.
Yeah.
And they ask for the sale too soon.
Right.
Now, other people are really timid.
Very true.
And they'll let the appointment go on far too long without asking. So they'll warm up, they'll talk to them, the people are interested, and then they over-explain the products. They drag it out super long, and then...
Well, and then you bring up a good point. They feel like that they are to the point where they've spent so much of the person's time, maybe an hour or so selling them, and then they do not want to continue to actually just go ahead and ask for something else because they feel like they're taking up so much of their time. They feel like that they have been almost like a burden, almost like the person just is tired of them, when in reality, they like you. They bought from you. They'll buy from you again. They'll give you referrals if you know how to ask, which brings us to our next point. How should you ask for a referral? Not only should you ask, that's step number one of anything. You ask. If you don't ask, you will not receive. Let's ask, baby. Let's ask. How should we ask, Sylvester? You mean to tell people how we should ask? I've got a proven referral system that is killer, and our Secure Agent Mentor agents use it. It's incredible. Asking for referrals. This is the golden question. When you ask for referrals, I always do something. I'm a little psychological in the way I do things. I put something in their head before I ask them. So I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you a question. But before I do, Someone's going to pop into your head as soon as I ask you this question. All I want is for you to tell me the name of the person that popped in your head immediately. And I even snap too when I'm going to ask you this. And so when I tell them, my question is, who do you know, what one person do you know that I can also help the way that I have helped you today? Who popped in your head? Even you sitting there, somebody popped in your head. Somebody popped in my head because we're training them before we ask that someone is going to pop in their head. And so they're going to be thinking about someone, and someone is going to come in. Someone's going to pop there. Who popped in your head, Sylvester?
My mother.
Okay. See, it happened. Someone popped in your head, and it's always going to happen. It always comes down to asking, but you've got to ask in the right ways. There's a lot of psychology to insurance. There's a lot of techniques. You got a better close. It all comes down to working hard and asking people for what you want. Why should we be ashamed to ask people for what we want? Right. Is it because we were trained as kids, like, not to ask people stuff, or not to talk to strangers, or everyone wanted to tell us no because we wanted to climb on them or steal a cookie, or what? I mean, what's the root of that? What would you say? Truthfully.
I think it just boils down to we don't like to be uncomfortable. Like, at the core of us, we don't like to be uncomfortable.
Okay, then if that's the case, let's all stop what we're doing right now and let's get uncomfortable. If you hate getting on the phone, that's the first thing you ought to do every day. If you hate door knocking, that's the first thing you ought to do every day. If you hate talking on the radio, go find a radio, pay for a slot, and get on the radio. Let's get uncomfortable. Successful people get uncomfortable. We will not be successful unless we get uncomfortable. How many of you are sitting there right now and you're thinking, I don't ask for stuff. How come I don't ask for stuff? I should be asking for everything I want. I ask for everything in my life that I want. If you don't, pick up the phone, call me right now. I want to help you. I want to make you successful. I want to make you rich. I want to make you an asset to your clients. I want to make you an asset to your family. And I want you to join Secure Agent Mentor. Call our office, 417-883-9300. That's a semi-infomercial right in the middle of our podcast. 417-883-9300. Ask for Cody with Secure Agent Mentor. I'm sitting here right now, even though you're not listening to this live. It's on a podcast, so it's kind of funny. But the whole idea of this podcast, we're going to go back to it, is getting what you want. Asking for what you want. We talked about referrals. We talked about making sure you ask for referrals. We talked about how to ask for referrals. The next topic is asking for an appointment. There's a song. I like the beat, but I don't like the song. You can't always get what you want. You know what? If I want it, I'm gonna get it, baby. I like the melody of it, the beat of it. It's a fun song, but you can always get what you want in this world. You can. You ask and you shall receive. It's biblical, right? It is. So what should we do when we are calling? I'm going to put Sylvester on the spot here. We haven't even talked about this. When you're calling, when you're setting an appointment, say you're calling a lead, how many times should you ask? How many times should you ask?
When you're first starting off, you should definitely ask more than once.
You should ask more than's comfortable.
Right. And as you get better at it, of course, you'll be able to fine-tune how you're delivering to where you're building rapport, that by the end of the conversation, you're like, you know what, Steve? I have an opening Tuesday at 5. It doesn't have to be pressureful. I'd love to come out and meet you and see what we can do
for you today. Bam. Perfect example. We say it. We ask what we want. We tell them what we want. We ask and we shut up and we let them respond. We use the pressure of silence to get them to say yes. If you wouldn't have told, would you use the name Steve? Mm-hmm. If you wouldn't have asked Steve, what's the chances of you getting an appointment if you don't ask him, or if you only ask him once? I had an agent a long time ago that back when I first started, we'll just call him Ronald. Ronald told me back when I first started in the business, he asked people, number one, he asked them until they say yes or until they hang up. Now that's a little too much. That's a little too far. I don't want to just go around pissing people off. I don't. But if you don't ask, you won't receive. And so you brought up, that was a perfect example. You tell them what you want, you ask for what you want, and then you shut up and let them respond. This podcast topic isn't even about talking too much, but how many people talk too much? How many people just sit around and blab? They think they have the gift of gab, so that makes them a good insurance agent. I'd rather a deaf mute than someone that has the gift of gab, wouldn't you?
I totally agree. I think that listening is going to give you more information than speaking.
Write that down. Write that down.
Time. Pause it.
Listening. I love that. That's a great one. That's a really good one. We even paused for a second because we wanted to put pressure on people. I mean, we wanted them to feel like the client does.
Right.
You know? I mean, we have to listen. We have to talk. We have to ask for what we want. Brings us to the last topic. Asking for the sale.
Right.
Which you've already got the appointment. What do you say, Sylvester?
I actually have a formula that I use for this. I call it remind, recommend, and justify. Okay. So when I set up the appointment, when I first walk into somebody's house, I thank them for letting me in their house. I compliment them. I find something in the house that we might have in common, which you can find common ground with anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody at all, whether they bake cookies or something like that, you can talk about it. You find that common ground. As I'm asking my discovery questions, I'll ask them, why are you getting life insurance? Who is it to protect? Going over all these questions. How much is your house payment? What do you have left on it? Do you owe anything on the cars? How smart are your kids? Do they plan to go to Ivy League schools or state schools? Do they plan to just go to a community college or a trade school? Then what I'll do is, based on what they have, I'll recommend something.
Okay.
So I'll recommend a price of the insurance, not the price of what it's going to cost them, but the amount of insurance that they actually need to cover their needs.
Okay.
We don't talk about price yet because people don't look at value if they hear price first.
No.
Just like when you go to a car dealership,
yeah,
they let you sit in the car, they let you smell the car, they'll let you drive it around, and they'll be like, man, this is a nice car, right? You like the stereo system? That's a great stereo system. Look at the tires. Those are some nice wheels. And then what you do is you justify. So we remind, we recommend, and then we justify. We're going to justify the price. We're going to be like, now, Steve, you said you didn't want Mary to end up with some slum guy just so she can pay the bills. You owe $250,000 on the house. Stacy is super smart. It's going to go to Harvard. That's going to be another $200,000 for that. You owe $1,000 on the car. And then that brand new BMW that you have out there, which, whew, man, it's a beautiful car. But that's another $50,000.
Yeah.
You know, and then your son will probably work on cars. And that can be anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 to go to school for that. So based on that, I recommend that we get you about $500,000 worth of life insurance. That'll cover all your needs that you have, plus give your wife a little bit of money that she can protect herself, she can store up, and that she can step back. Because Mary loves you a lot, doesn't she? Mary is going to be heartbroken, and you don't want her to make any rash decisions when she's mourning. And we want to make sure that she has money that if she needs to step back from work, she can. Or to make up for your income that she's missing out.
Right.
She can. And then we're going to justify the price. Now, based on all those things, remember, you said you wanted to protect all these things, and this is actually the amount of insurance you need. We can get you in that for 40 years on a fixed term for $25,000 or whatever the price is. I said $25,000.
But the good thing is you would have known before you actually put together a proposal. You would have known what their budget is. That's something most agents don't ask is, what are you comfortable spending for this? It's this much per month or it's this much per year. I mean, anytime I sell, I'm figuring out, like you did when you're building value, I'm figuring out the beneficiary's name. In that case, it would have been the wife, so it would have been easy. So you can build the value. You can use the beneficiary's name a lot. And I'm finding out what their budget is. You know, I mean, okay, you've got through all that. Most people don't ask for the sale. This is called closing. There's a multitude of different closes. We've got videos on them, all 2 different closes at Secure Agent Mentor in our different videos. What's your favorite close?
Personally, I just like to ask them how they spell their last name. So
just
I'll
the
pull it out on the
assumption.
app, and I'll be like, Steve, now is that Myers with an A or an E?
Okay. So you just make fun of yourself by misspelling it. No, I'm just kidding. So you pretty much you're using the assumption close. You're assuming that they want to buy, that they're going to do it. And shoot, why wouldn't they? If we don't assume they're going to buy, they're not going to assume it. If we don't assume it, they ain't going to do it, Just like if we don't ask, they're not going to do it. We want to always assume and ask. I like that. There's a multi different closes. There's direct closes. There's I don't do callback closes. There's tons of different closes. Either or close. There's 3 option closes. There's 2 option closes. There's just a multi different closes. It doesn't matter. The key is find a few closes you like and ask for the business. The whole purpose of this podcast, of this audio, is to ask. We have to ask. Get some enthusiasm. Go see some people. Get some work ethic. Light a fire under your butt. And go ask.
Totally agree. Whatever close you choose, you have to be confident in it. Don't dance around it. Don't be one of those people that gives them 15 options to choose, because you're the professional. Whether you've been in the business for a little bit of time or a long period of time, you know more than the average person about life insurance.
Right.
And they're expecting you to be a professional. So you can't give them 15 options, because they're going to be like, why am I going with this person? I wonder if they know what they're doing, because if they knew what they were doing, why would they give me all these options? Exactly. So I usually stick to 2. I know some people are comfortable with 3. I just usually like to be like, I have this one or this one. They're about the same price. This one's going to last 15 years. This one might last 20 years. Which one do you want to last longer? And that usually is confident, because my confidence that I'm giving, they could see, and they're like, man, all right, let's go with that one.
What'd you do in that? It all comes down to an A word we've mentioned about 1,000 times on this podcast. What'd you do?
We ask.
You ask. That's all you got to do. Any final words before we finish? This is our first one on a specific training. We've done a lot of videos. We wanted to start a podcast. This is our first one on podcast about training our agents. We get a lot of requests for different topics. And if you have a request for a topic, shoot us an email. Cody.Askins@secureig.com. CODY.ASKINS@secureig.com. Send me an email. Send Sylvester an email. Request a podcast training topic. We'll talk about it 15, 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes, and you'll become an expert. Anything else you want to add before we close it out?
Man, just get out there, be aggressive, and don't take no for an answer. Nobody else is going to build your business better than you, and nobody's going to want your goals better than you. So stay motivated, stay focused, and when you don't want to do it, because that's probably when you'll see most of your success.
That's it. I love it. This is Cody with Secure Agent Mentor, Sylvester with Secure Agent Mentor. You're listening to Training for Success. Thank you very much.